Hi everyone and welcome to Hobby World. It's been a long time since I did any work to this slot car track, which is a real shame because I actually love working with it. So in this video I am going to do some major upgrades to the track. I'm going to paint up some buildings, I'm going to install a lot more light, and then I'm going to work a bit on the vegetation, add some plants, I'm going to add some small details and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So if you're interested in seeing how it turns out, stay on the channel and see what I have in store for you. Well, let's start with a quick overview of some of the parts I'm going to be working on. First of all, we have this garage over here, and it's painted up, and I actually think it turned out really great. So I still need to install some lights inside it. So that's the main priority with this one, install lights. If we take a look down here on the other part of the track, I have this building. This is a place where people can buy a hot dog. So that's definitely required around a racetrack. So I have already primed this and sprayed it with metal. So I'm going to paint it up and add some rust effect, add some lights and so on. And finally I have this building over here, which is a huge 4-story building where it's been built out of all kinds of scrap metal and so on. I'm going to paint that up, and then I'm of course going to install lights inside the building, and when all of the track is complete I'm going to add a lot of persons and people and so on to bring some life into the track on that building. But if we take a look at the track here, we can see I have lights basically all around the track, but right in this turn over here when we race and it's dark around us, when we haven't turned on the lights in the room, this gets really dark, this area of the track. So I'm going to use this huge building to add some posts with small lamps and spotlights that will shine some light down on the track everywhere in this corner. I think that's going to look really nice. And if we take a look at the lights here, they are very white. They have this white, bright light. So I'm probably going to use some of the same LEDs when working on the spotlights here, but I'm probably also going to add some yellow light that's a bit more cozy coming from the building around the track. So I get a track with a lot of different types of light, because that's just going to look really nice. So basically that's the 3 parts I'm going to be working on this weekend. This building, the stuff over here, and then this one. So let's get to it. First of all, I'm going to start with this model. I am going to remove all of the supports from the 3D printing process. And after that, I'm going to prime it. I have some tools I usually use when removing support from 3D printed models. Usually a common hobby knife like this, the clipper, and then I have these two. I don't know what they're called in English, but they are usually used when working with wood, and they are really effective for removing large pieces of supports. Removing all of those supports actually went quite easy. They are over here, and it didn't take very long. So if we take a look at the model now and inspect it to see how it's all looking, it is actually very nice. But there are all of these small tiny strings here. It's almost like some hair, and it's part of the PLA from the printing process. If the PLA was a bit wet, or if it had some moisture in it, or if the temperature wasn't quite right. And I didn't care when I printed the model, because I have found a way to remove them that's actually quite easy. And I need to remove them before starting to paint the model, because if you paint a model with all of these tiny strings hanging around, you will get a very poor result. So I'm using a heat gun like this, and this will melt all of these small strings and make them retract so they aren't visible anymore. And it's actually quite easy, and it doesn't take a long time. So I'm just going to do that now, and then we can check out the model afterwards. Well, sometimes you are just lucky if things goes just as planned. This actually didn't take much more than 20 minutes removing all of the supports manually, and then removing all of the strings using the heat gun. So that was actually quite fast. Now I need to base it or prime it, and I have decided to prime it using a steel color, a metal color, because most of the parts on this model is actually metal, so I will really speed up the entire paint process by just applying a base color of steel. And after that I'm going to paint up all of the other parts that has some different colors, and then I will apply a rust effect on top of it all to make it look like the rest of the buildings on the slot car track. When all of that is complete, I can start installing the lights, painting up all of the small details, and adding the spotlights that will shine down on the track. I have just applied the base color to all of the buildings, and they look kind of bad right now, but when I have applied this rust effect they will all look much better. It's several steps when painting buildings like this, and you build up the layers one at a time, and when working with a project like this where everything needs to be rusty and look really damaged, then the final steps where you apply the rust and the effects, and I'm going to use some pigments in the end, will really make a difference on the overall look of the finished model. So it's really important that to remember that even though they look kind of bad right now, they will end up looking really nice when they complete it. Well, painting these two buildings took a bit longer than I expected, but they turned out really nice. I finished them all off by applying some of this. This is pigment, and I needed that for creating the effect of dry rust on the building. So they are looking just as I wanted them to. Really happy about them. I have even painted the inside of the building because I really like the idea of a racing track where you have all these small details and people can watch the track for hours and still find some strange things or some small details. So the idea is that when people are watching through a door or window like this, then they are going to see stuff inside the buildings they probably didn't see before. So you really gotta look carefully on the track to find all of these small Easter eggs I have placed here. And the thing I need to do now is to add some lights, and I have decided to add yellow lights around the buildings. On the track I used a white light, which is really nice for illuminating a track, but it doesn't quite have the mood I wanted, so I'm going to use some yellow lights that's a bit more cozy. I have some LEDs that are flickering, and I'm going to use those around on the buildings to represent that some of the light bulbs may have been broken. I have 3D designed the lamps themselves, and I've made them so I can place them both inside to illuminate from the interior. I'm probably also going to use a bit of red lights because I think that using different lights here will really make this model look really incredible. And then I've made some lights or lamps that can be placed below parts like this to illuminate the area below them. This large building over here is also going to illuminate some of the racetrack, so I'm probably going to place some lamp posts on top of it with some spotlights that will shine down on the track that goes all the way around it like this. So just off to soldering all of these lamps and sanding down some LED tops so they don't have that spotlight effect, unless they of course are for the racetrack. Installing the lights inside these buildings is actually taking a really long time, and my work table is just a complete mess. I have this baking powder I'm using to hardening the super glue, and I have some pigments on the table, and I have soldering everywhere. So this is just a complete mess, and these buildings are really large and they're not suited for a work table like the one I'm sitting at here. And it's taking an extremely long time installing the lights. But I figured out a new way to do it that's actually much better than the first buildings. I am simply using copper tape like the ones I have used for the racetrack. The advantage of using this copper tape like this is that if I decide to add more lights later, and I'm probably going to do that because I need some spotlights from this building and I haven't made them yet, so I can just connect them to this copper tape by soldering them in place. So I have the positive and the negative side, and this is actually working really well, and I can just paint them up so you can't see them on the back side here, and they are not preventing me from installing or adding the top part here because they are so thin compared to the wires that the copper tape will just flow in between the two parts. So I have managed to do the first part up here and install the lights, and each time I install a part I need to have a wire so I can disconnect it, so I can get inside each of these levels of the building, because I am going to install people, I'm going to make small sceneries and everything inside all of these rooms. So I have to be able to disassemble the entire model, meaning that I will have to be able to remove these wires down here and remove a roof, remove third level, second layer and first level, and so on. So just back to it and install some more wires. Well, it's almost 2 in the night and this took a lot longer than I had expected. There are so many LEDs inside these buildings. Some of them are flickering and I have a couple of different colors, but I think that it turned out really great. The mood is just excellent, and the way using the copper tape I did on this large building over here just worked really flawless. So it was very quick finishing this building, where this one actually took a lot longer time, and this one even has the advantage that I'll be able to place the spotlights for the racetrack much easier, as I have some places I can solder on each of the levels. So using copper tape for conducting the current is a great way of doing this, and I'm definitely going to be using that technique later. So as you can see here, I have some red lights on the top, and then I have yellow lights, orange lights, and I have some flickering lights here and there. And now I just need to place these buildings on the racetrack, but that's something I'm going to do tomorrow, because I'm pretty tired right now. I still need to add some small details, some posters, wanted posters, some Borderlands themed stuff, and I'm also going to do that tomorrow. So right now I'm just going to bed. Adding all of those small tiny details took a lot longer than expected. All of these buildings have so many small things around them. I had to design 3D design some signs I could mount this artwork in, and the same over here with the Tiny Tina's Pizza and Burgers. It's dynamite. and then I decided to make some smoke out of these chimneys I made myself. And it took a long time, but I'm very happy about the result of all of these buildings. They are more or less all centerpieces in themselves, and I could have made a video about each of them separately, but I decided to do them all, and I think the track is going to look really incredible when these are installed. It took a long time making stuff like this, the small lamps, and there are so many LEDs mounted inside each of these buildings to create the illusion of light, both inside the building and outside the building. So now I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to mount them on the track and run the wires through the bottom of the track and attach the power and see how they look when it's getting dark outside. I am really happy about these. This hideout for the psychos or bandits, the scooter workshop garage, and then I made this small Tiny Tina pizza and burgers joint here. I'm going to make some characters and people for the buildings now. So right after I've installed these, I am going to paint up some persons or some people to populate the racetrack. As you can see, I have dragged the 3 buildings out here and placed them on the track where I want them to stand, and I haven't glued them in place yet, and I still need to run the wires through the scenery and down below the track so I can connect all of the power. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it will turn out when I get all of these lights shining, both the lights I have here on the lamppost along the edge of the track, but also the ones from the buildings. This one will illuminate all of this curve up here, which is a place on the track that needed some lights before. And then of course we have the Tiny Tina's Pizza and Burger over here, and we have Scooter's garage workshop over here. And this one and the pizza place isn't casting any light themselves, but they are of course generating light from inside the building. So they are not meant to illuminate the track, but they will cast this ambient kind of light around them. So I think that will look really nice. So generally now I just need to run these wires through, and to do that I am going to use a rather large drill, because there is some places on this track when going through the styrofoam there is around this length. So large drill. So let's get to it. I'm about to glue the building in place, and I am using this stuff that's called Gorilla Glue. This is an expanding glue, meaning that it will expand when I apply it to the surface of the parts I'm going to glue. And this is the perfect glue for attaching anything to a surface like this, because this surface is very uneven. It has been flocked, it's uneven. So if I need something to stick to it, it needs to have some kind of expansion. So I'm using this Gorilla Glue. It works really well. So I'm going to glue the base of this building right here, making sure that all of the wires are running correctly. See if I can do this without damaging anything. So I'll just apply a coat of the Gorilla Glue on the bottom here and then leave it to dry. It's not necessary to cover the entire surface. It will stick, and it sticks very well. I've glued some of my full-scale projects with this glue combined with super glue, and it created a really strong bond. So I'm very confident that this piece will stay where I put it. On the other hand, I really need to be sure that the part is completely finished before gluing it in place, because it will be almost impossible removing it after this. And then I'll just use a bit of super glue to attach it really quick so it will stay in place while the Gorilla Glue dries. So just make sure that it's absolutely straight, placed right, just where I want it. The camera's a bit in the way here, so something like this. This will be okay. I'm going to add a bit more flock around the building, and I'm going to add some plants, scenery and so on. So the fact that the building doesn't completely fit to the ground, I'm going to fix that. I'll simply add some flock and sand that will even out the surface and make it look like the building is actually on level with the landscape. That actually looks very nice. I can't wait to see this with the light turned on. I'll just attach these two buildings first, and then I'm going to connect all of the wires below the track, and then I'm going to turn off the lights inside this room and see how it all looks. Well, that was the initial part. All of the buildings has been glued in place and the wires has been run through the surface of the track. So now I only need to attach them below, so we can see how this will look when there is light on everything. So this looks really nice. I like the Borderlands-like feel all of these buildings has. I still need to do something in all of the areas that are empty. I'm going to add all kinds of small scenery. I'm going to add some fires and so on. I am also working a bit on these barrels, absolutely not finished yet, but I just placed them here to see where I wanted to put them, and all kinds like that. Small stuff over here, more signs, Borderlands signs. I'm going to do a lot of work here with the crashed airplane, especially since I removed the original trees. You can see all of the holes here in the surface. That needs to be replaced with something that makes all of this track look like something that belongs, or something that is built as a single track, because the original idea with this plane wasn't the idea I had with this over here, so I need to blend that together some way. Just connected the last couple of wires below the track, and there are beginning to be a lot of wires down there. So now there's only one thing left to do, and that's test it. And I haven't tested this yet, so I'm really excited to see what happens when I plug this in. So this is just a short-term solution I have down here. So let's just plug this in, see what happens up here. As I can see, it actually looks like there is light in all of the buildings. We have this one over here, the large one, the small pizza and burger place, and then the garage over here, and we have all of the lights. I'm just going to turn off the lights in the ceiling here and see how this track is beginning to look when there is no extra, or when it's only its own natural light. I have a single lamp over there to give a small bit of illumination, but just check this out. This is actually looking just like I wanted it to. This is really, really great. I just love how this pizza place turned out, especially this flickering lamp down here, sort of like saying you need to replace this bulb, but we're in the Borderlands, so it's probably not going to get done. And this one, casting a mix of orange and red lights down on the track, making this corner look really incredible actually. I should have considered that way before. As you can see, I've used all of these white bright lights, looking really nice, but that there, that's just really incredible. Just love it. Still need to remove all of this styrofoam that came up when I drilled the holes though. But let's check this out. Really, really nice. And the lamp up here displaying some of the posters. We have all of the small details. Lamp in the front, and I also added one in the back. There are so many LEDs on all of these buildings, and inside them, as you can see, there are lights inside the buildings. See it through the windows. All of those small little details down here, small posters from the Borderlands franchise. So next up, I'm going to 3D print some of the known characters, you know, Claptrap, Moxie, so on, from the game, and place them around the track to give it a bit more life and create a mood around the track that really says Borderlands. I still need a couple of buildings though. I think that some of the areas are a bit empty, and then of course I need a lot of additional scenery. In the real Borderlands game there are a lot of loot crates, there are all kinds of stuff. We have these vending machines with weapons and medicine, and I need to add some of those too, just to finish the illusion. So yeah, the next part of the project will probably be to paint this one up and make it look like it's burning. But I'm really happy about this, looking so nice. That's it for this time. I finished all of the 3 buildings, and it was a huge task. All of these buildings I've done here are centerpieces in their own right, and I could easily have made a video about each of them. But instead I decided to make a video about all 3, and they turned out really great. I am so happy about how they look on the track, and I really hope that this has inspired you to working with hobby related projects like models or slot car tracks. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, and remember, comments and feedback are always appreciated. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day everyone.